If you're like me, and you got no life and there's nowhere to go, then tune in to the Animation Truman Show. You'll be glad you did. And tonight on the Animation Truman Show, what's coming up? We have no idea. But I am here. This is Dave, aka BlendedPlanet. And this is, of course, the Animation Truman Show, which is the unadorned, uncurated glimpse behind the scenes at the real world grunt work of creating an animated cartoon. Well, the good news is that last night I did release Webisode 2 of Salt and Light. So we've got 2 episodes out, 1 and 2, and now there's really nothing to do except get back to the just the routine of working on the show. And so I am right now on my other screen closing up Krita, and we're going to take a look at what we kind of sort of have to do here. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to make this recommendation. I've been thinking about different stuff on YouTube and whatnot that I really feel I can recommend, and I do want to recommend this young lady. Let's switch over to this screen. This young lady, Anne Catherine Dern. She's from originally from Germany, and she's working in LA as a composer and orchestrator. She's worked on quite a bit of stuff that you can see on Netflix and whatnot, but I'm not going to bore you with trying to recap her credits. But I tell you, this girl has a great work ethic, good habits, and this particular video, 9 productivity hacks for creatives, it really applies to whatever you're doing, whether you're doing animation or, in her case, of course, music stuff. But anyway, so I like Anne. I think she's a neat young lady and doing great work, incredibly good quality music work, and her advice, or as Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, advices, that's a quote from the original Pumping Iron, may definitely benefit you. So take a look, check her out, blah, blah, blah. And back over to the edit. So what's going on here is Asher I'll say this, episode 3, as I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I do expect episode 3 to be out quite a bit quicker than episode 2. Episode 2 took basically 6 weeks. Tried to do it in a month. I'm really glad I stretched it out. There were scenes I wanted to redo and try to improve, and I'm glad I did that. And then I added some other things like the, previously on Salt and Light. I like that. I think it's cool. Gives people a recap, and then at the end, sort of a little bit of a plug and pointing them back to episode 1 in case they missed it. So anyway, episode 3 I expect will be quicker because as I'm going through here, it really looks pretty good. I actually went in today and took all the shots of Tobias. So when Vespar arrives in the court, Vespar being the prince, okay, he's got this guy with him named Tobias, who, I don't know how you describe Tobias. He's he's not really a caretaker, although probably when Vespar was younger, that probably was his role, kind of a caretaker. But he's an interesting character that will be developed more in future episodes, but his characterization was definitely a little off. His eyes were a little funky, and I think that's what I did actually last night on the live stream. Hey, Sifter. Did you like it? I'm glad you liked it, Sifter. Thank you. I'm doing my best, man. I'm doing my best to really try to make things entertaining and just do my job well. And actually, that's why I recommended Anne's YouTube channel, is because those 9 productivity hacks are just really, really good for the discipline of how you approach your work and take care of your your health, and make sure you're finding for example, the the time of day that's most creative for you and really giving that time to your most important creative work, as opposed to having a constant decision-making process where you decide if you're going to do this or do that. Just really get it into a routine. And I think you, Sifter, are, I don't know this to be true, but I suspect you're a good example of that, because kind of the level of data processing that you're bringing to your project, I think, is really, really good. The way you've got everything kind of in these spreadsheets, and I'm not sure what all the software you use. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all of it, but the way you're looking at the stats and seeing how things are going, and whether you're, if you're meeting the pace that you thought you'd be able to achieve and that sort of thing, I think that's really cool. I mean, you're a good example to the community in bringing that a little bit of a measure of discipline to the table, as opposed to just questions about which software to use or whatever. So anyway, but thanks for the compliment. I appreciate that. Please like and share, and the routine. We want to try to get the word out, and hopefully help the show to gain a little bit of traction. So anyway, so I fixed up Tobias. I went into Tahoma over here on the other screen, and basically just went into the individual drawings and actually fixed him up a bit. And it turns out that these 4 drawings right here are used in like 6 different scenes. So I got a lot of mileage out of fixing him up a bit. Now what I want to look at today, I think, is I want to look at Asher. I mean, I think basically the acting and what Asher does in these scenes throughout this first sequence, look, it's pretty good. But I kind of think maybe it could be better. I don't remember what I did. This was really done kind of a long time ago. Hey, Chris K. I'm doing fine, man. How are you? And I believe it was done in Blender. I believe it was originally Blender 2.7. Again, this was some of the earlier stuff that I did. I sort of did it and then moved on to other things, and in creating, in basically roughing in 48 minutes of animation, there's a lot of stuff that was done quite a long time ago, So I'm having to go back and reacquaint myself with, okay, what the heck did I do here? Shot number 155. Usually my course of action has been to, it's either Krita or Blender or Tahoma. That's for sure. So let's just look back here. And since we have the thumbnails, it can't hurt to at least look and see if it's showing up here in Tahoma. And it looks to me like it's not. This is all the end of the webisode I just did. And then this is the beginning of the new one, and I don't really see any shots of Asher. And then it jumps right to the stuff with Tobias and Vespar. So that means it's either Krita or Blender, and it could be a mix of both. So bear with me while I need to go ahead and open up Blender and Krita so that they're sort of ready to go. And yeah, Chris, it's good to see you. I seems to me you were around, maybe real recently, but hadn't been around for quite a while before that. So anyway, welcome back to the tribe. One thing I'm kind of trying to do better for you guys is drinking my tasty beverage. Is try to stay on topic here, with what I'm doing, so I'm not like totally wasting everybody's time. Okay, first of all, let's just find out if 155 has any kind of Krita presence. If it does, let's just see what it is. This could be a lot. Okay, this looks like this is the shot. Okay. So, okay, this is the shot. So just out of curiosity, though, I'm going to look and see if there's anything in the 155 range or 159. I just want to see if there's any remnants. See, there is a blend file. Okay, so this is interesting. Of course, that made Blender blow up. I'm going, wait, there it is. I'm looking at Krita. Okay, how stupid can I be? Okay, it looks like that blew Blender up. So 4 webisodes will be 1 full episode. Actually, that's a great question. Not quite. I would say the way it's looking to me, for sure this is episode 3. So this whole thing that happens in the court, that's actually another reason why I want to get the darn thing out a little quicker, is because we really are having to let Mel and Tianara and Luka go for this whole webisode. So I really want, and this is a very important exposition in terms of what happens in the greater arc of the story, because it sets up the whole problem. I mean, the whole problem is that Golek hatches this plan to marry off Vespar, and who is Vespar going to be married off to? Tianara. Okay. So anyway, so I want to get this one out, and then we get back to Mel and his misadventures and Tianara and all the rest. So it looks to me like it's probably 5. Looks like this would be 3. 4 is going to be about to here, and then 5 will be here. So it looks to me like 5 webisodes gives me a 24-minute episode. Quite frankly, once we get to here and get 5 of these done, then the likelihood is that I'll be going to my film distributor and saying, hey, okay, finally episode 1 is ready. And then, it would be my expectation that at that point, probably the webisodes will probably have to be pulled down off YouTube in order to go ahead and turn the assets over to the distributor for normal, sort of conventional distribution. So that will be that. But also by that time, I'd like to think that I'm kind of in a pace that will cause the entire second 24-minute episode to probably come together faster, So that's my thinking. Anyway, it's all humming along pretty good. So do we want to open up Blender and check 159 as well? Can't hurt. So let's just see. I'm just looking here at which is the Asher shots. I think it was 159. Yes, 159 is definitely an Asher shot. So it looks to me like this stuff was done originally in Blender, and probably it's all made its way over to Krita. And a lot of it, okay, so that's a redo in Blender. I have no idea if that's Blender 2.79. Okay, this is definitely not the right shot. This is ancient. It's kind of a good example of what you can do, though, with the grease pencil. I mean, you look at all the sort of very fluid animation. That looks pretty good, but frankly, the characterization of Asher is wrong, okay? So whatever time this was done, Asher hadn't really been finalized, so that's no good. So what do we got? What we have is definitely kind of interesting. What I want to do, I really want to tighten up the art on Asher. Let me look at the shot over here. I want to make sure, just really carefully make sure what I'm seeing here and what I'm seeing in Krita are the same thing. And it looks like they are. So okay. So I'm on my other screen just looking at what I have. And yeah, this definitely looks like this is the correct shot. Yeah, right there is where he loses me a little bit. Okay, so is this... Okay, so yeah, the bad news is everything's baked in. This is I guess for the purists out there, kind of a good thing in that this is bona fide frame by frame animation. So what I am not sold on is his eyes. Frankly, there's a few things you could probably criticize in his beard as well, frankly, but mainly there's just something about his eyes that I'm not loving. So this part where he's sort of squinting kind of sort of works. So this is an interesting situation. I really have to consider how I'm going to do this. Because you know, everything's baked into flat drawings. So that means that if I change one drawing, I'm just going to introduce animation chatter if I don't make sure everything's changing really in concert, right? All together in a consistent way. Hey, Maria. Um, let's look at. So this is all fine. The wide shot's obviously fine. Let me look at what these other layers are. We got our background, and what the heck is this stuff? What the heck is that? I don't even know what that is. Unfortunately, it's just labeled paint layer 3. And this is going to be like a tint. This is just a tint layer. This is group 4 merge. Let's solo that and see what that is. Okay. This was his head in the wide shot. So if we turn that off, well, that explains a lot. Okay. Maybe we should name our layers. Maybe that'd be a good idea. Head. We'll call that head wide. Just for fun, we'll call this tint. Okay, and this is his tunic or whatever you want to call it. What happens if we turn off the tunic? The man has no shoulders. Okay. Whoops. All right. So now this is the magic layer. This is the body animation. And then when we cut to close, yeah, this is what we would call Asher. And background looks okay, defocused, yada yada yada. Okay. In my other screen, I'm going to look real quick at some of the shots of Asher from episode 1 were actually done really, really recently. And yep, and I'm going to look at also at the end here. Okay, in terms of his characterization, I think we're in pretty good shape. So, let's see what we want to do with this. First of all, the wide shot looks good. Once we get to the close-up, things look pretty choppy. Oh, Krita, are you going to act silly again? I got to click away so Krita doesn't freeze up on me. Yeah, so what I'm sorry this is so slow, but what I'm looking at is the fact that this is pretty bad in the sense that the mouth is baked into the head. That's really pretty bad because it means you got all these levels where nothing changes except the mouth. Okay, so actually that elucidates the solution. The solution is actually to do a layer. We'll just call this iFix. Okay, so the solution is to do another layer that fixes the eyes right there. I'm going to go ahead and insert a keyframe. And I'm just going to play with this, okay? So it's always a good idea to turn off your tint. If you have a tint, then if you're fixing something, you're asking for trouble because when you sample colors like this, control click, you're actually going to sample the wrong color if the tint is turned on. And then you're going to wonder why it's not actually reproducing the color you want. So what I'm trying to do right now is simply get myself in a mental frame where I don't have stuff on the screen that's confusing me. I want to just kind of look at it and see what I'm feeling. Okay, and if there's too many drawings on there that I'm fighting with, then it's hard to get that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to call this temp. I'm going to make a temp layer so that I have basically a pencil test layer. So I can just kind of doodle a bit and find the characterization for Asher that's a little closer to, and probably a little better, just a little better quality than what I feel like I'm seeing there. Now, one thing I can do here is if I want to work in this single layer, I can always just hit Control M and do a turn down, which basically just cranks down the alpha so that I can then keep tightening up over top of it. And I do like working that way in Krita. Okay, and I'm looking for a little bit more consistency. Yeah, it's just a little too frenetic and messy, you know, like I really just wasn't, you know, it's been a long time ago, and I'll just say that, oops, I just made a mistake. Okay. Got to make sure you're in the right layer there, Jack. Yeah, the M key, which flips the canvas, is definitely much less performant in any and all versions of Krita 5. So I hit M, and then you have to sit and wait for a second for the canvas to flip horizontally. I want to kind of move fast here. I want to actually just start squishing things around. Okay, in the old version we had a little bit more. So I'm just going to allow myself to do some scribbling here and just kind of find it. It's very strange, the tug of war that happens between, like, it really is easier to just start over and draw something from scratch sometimes, because it's like you're kind of constrained by what's there. But yet you don't want to throw away work that's, you know, 80% good, right? M key. It takes me back takes me to not too far from what I had before. So I'm actually going to take this. Well, the basic, yeah, you don't want to probably fix this up because you're going to be, it's going to break on the next keyframe because his head is baked into all the frames that have his mouth in it talking. So that's okay. We're just kind of, this is doodle time, friends. This is doodle time. Because what I can do is I can always, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. This may or may not be necessary, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to fix this up and then just cut and paste it into another layer. Because it's not that far off what I think I want to do. it's just messy, you know. It's just all kind of a little choppy and dirty. Well, that's what the animation Truman Show is all about. Is it's the unadorned grunt work. Right. So that's what I'm doing. Unadorned grunt work. Whoops. Didn't get the right color sample. Now that's getting to be okay. Just draw this in there. And maybe a little hint of the whites of his eyes there. Let me rotate this a bit. Let's see what happens next. Yeah, I'll see. I would say probably want to go ahead and color that in. Once this is kind of sort of correct-ish, or even before, frankly, so that's good to there. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Come on now. You see how plans for crowdfunding? Well, there's links on the video even right now on this live stream where if people want to contribute through GoFundMe, Patreon, or just like a PayPal tip, they can do it. I mean, basically nobody's really done it much. I mean, one person gave to GoFundMe like $10, which of course I appreciate. But it's just kind of something that's there if people want to. The way I think of it is if you want to support the show, that's what the GoFundMe is about, and if you want to support the YouTube channel, that's kind of what the Patreon is about. So, you know, if I really wanted to drop everything and devote the next 60 days to promoting a crowdfund situation, I'd do it. I really don't. So, I just don't. I'd rather just work on the show. So, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it at this point. You know, it's not like I'm hurting for money. It's not like I really need the money to be able to do this. My argument is simply that this show, working on this generally gets, an hour or two a day. If people want to turn it into a full-time job so that episodes come out a lot more often, then I invite them to provide the support that justifies saying, okay, now I'm not going to, like for example, tomorrow morning, I really need to completely spec out a total website rebuild for a commercial client. Okay. And, that's a job that'll be worth probably a couple $1,000s, right? Well, that's a lot of, there's quite a few, and that's the work that pays my bills. Some of it's website development, some of it's sort of voice work for my message on hold clients or that type of thing. But it's commercial work. It's the commercial work that pays the bills and has paid the bills for all these years. So if people want to support the show so that I can justify saying, okay, I'm actually going to give 4 hours per day to this show or 6 hours, because it actually makes sense to do so, then I'll do it. Because I don't really care, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's not that I don't care in the sense that I wouldn't maybe rather be creating entertainment full time. Because I would. To me, it's a beautiful thing. I love the idea of just, get up in the morning and just work on creating good quality entertainment. Do the best I can to sort of make people happy, just a little bit brighter day, you know, with a story, you know, story, characters, music, the whole thing. To be able to justify giving that full time would be really cool. So, but I don't expect that to be the case for a while. And it might actually turn out if I do these webisodes and then we get 5 of them out there, right? And now you're at a place where it makes sense to go ahead and do the standard distribution thing. At that point, what I might find out is that, you know, it may turn out that the earning power of the show is through standard distribution channels may really exceed what you're likely to accomplish with crowdfunding anyway. You know, so it becomes a timing thing. It's like because there's people out there who have raised really, really large amounts of money for animation-related projects, which have basically not delivered on their promise. Okay? I won't name names. Some of you guys know who some of the ones are that I'm talking about. There's at least 2 or 3 that I can think of right off the top of my head that earned certainly in the hundreds of thousands of dollars on an animation project and have not delivered. You know, for me, look, this is what I want my life to be. Okay, I wanna deliver value, and frankly, I'm fairly self-deprecating about what I do here on the Animation Truman Show because it always baffles me. I think who in the name of God would ever want to watch this? You know, because this isn't the curated crap that you see in the behind the scenes that makes it seem like it's all just so magical and so easy, but it's not easy. But what the story is that you always hear is that, oh, we had such a great team, and working with so and so famous name director or name actor was so inspiring that it was just the best experience ever. It's all bullshit. It really is. The people that actually get the work done just freaking get up in the morning and do the work. That's what they do. You know, that's the truth. They just do the work. And so the best life for someone who's creating entertainment is to be the kind of person who truly is happy to just do the work. And so we create these stupid stories about how it was the most amazing experience ever. And this is all, it's not that it's not necessarily maybe true. For some people, in some circumstances, okay, I'll give you that maybe it was the best experience ever. But basically, my point is that you create that story so that people are... It's like, actually, I'm getting a little worked up here. It's like when you see the follow... Okay, so I'll use one example. Let me think of who this was. I think it was Hullabaloo Steampunk. So there's a animation thing out there called Hullabaloo Steampunk, which James Lopez did. And James Lopez, come on, he seems like a sweet guy. He's obviously a very talented animator. He's got some creds working for like Disney and stuff. Okay, so nothing against James, but James raised a lot of money, right? And in his pitch video, what he's talking about is how, you know, it's his dream is to just recreate to save traditional 2D animation. It's like this wonderful story. It's like you create this story. I'm like, I mean, if you really put me in a box and ask me my real opinion, I don't want the story to be about me and my experience. I really don't. I want the story to be the freaking story. Okay, the show that you're going to watch and enjoy. I want that to be the story. I don't want my life to be the story. I think that's stupid because it's usually not true. It's usually just a made-up story in order to get people. And what made me laugh a little bit ago is that what happens is on a project like that, they don't deliver anything literally for years. It's like 7 years later, right? You know, they raise like $700,000 or something, and they deliver nothing. Okay, and then what happens is they go out on YouTube sometime, and they have like something stupid, like a little 30-second trailer or something, and admittedly, it looks really good. It does look good. Okay, so the 30 seconds that they actually created does look good, no doubt about it. But then you look at the comments, and what are the comments? All the comments are the same. They're like, so excited to see this finally come out. Everybody's like, oh, it's so excited. Comment after comment of so excited. I'm thinking, really? You're excited that this guy made you a promise that he didn't keep? And now 6 or 7 years later, when he farts 30 seconds of something, you jump right back on and you're so excited? What the hell is wrong with this picture? What is wrong with this world that's like normal? That makes no sense to me. Okay? So to me it's like a little dishonorable. Right? So what I'm doing here isn't necessarily that pretty, but at least I'm telling the truth. The truth is this is hard work and it takes a lot of time and you have to be able to justify it. And if it's going to stand, let it stand on its own merits. And if people want to criticize it on its own merits, then I respect that. Because this is not the greatest production ever done, okay? And this is not going to be something amazing that saves 2D animation. If it's good, it's basically good because of the writing, actually. It's the writing and the voices and the characters and the music and the pacing. It's everything working together. And I will make mistakes, believe me. And that's okay. But I'm just doing what I do, you know? So if I have a goal, my goal is to just be able to do what I do and do the best I can for you guys, you know? And that's not much, frankly. The truth is I can't do that much. I can only justify so much time to give to it, for one thing. And my talent is limited, you know? And I shouldn't necessarily rant about it, but I do find it a little bit disappointing. I find it disappointing when somebody who has really pretty good street cred and film credits and whatnot is able, probably because of their street cred in the industry, you know, are able to raise these monstrous amounts of money for which they deliver almost nothing, you know? So that was what kind of kept me from going too far in the crowdfund direction until I was really, really sure, for one thing, that I had a story that made sense. And the truth is I don't have much of a story that makes sense. I don't. The only thing that makes sense is I want to do a good job. And I'm willing to work pretty hard, you know? I'm not going to drive myself into the grave working so hard that it kills me. Right? But I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm always trying to improve. And if the quote-unquote crowd wants to make it so that this really becomes a full-time job, then the crowd can do that. They can do it very easily. Now, the problem is, of course, that they're not aware, right? Yeah, Chris, it's way more difficult than probably most people think. Okay, let me see what we have here. Play that. That is kind of weird. It's like there was a little buffering error there. I'm not sure I'm sold on this, actually. I have to admit, probably because I'm yakking as much as I'm drawing, but I'm actually not convinced this is better. And it probably isn't, because what's probably going to make it better is not going to be just fixing the poses. I mean, that looks pretty good. It's tight. I would call that tight. none of this matters much because it's just going vroom. It's just, it's all in motion, so you can't really see it anyway. But definitely his hat looks better. So what's changing here is the lip sync. The only thing that changes is his mouth until he has this change in expression. So anyway, let me look at the comments here for half a second here, guys. Maria says it's a hard thing to do. It helps to. This is my thinking at this point. I've really struggled with. You know what? To me, it's this tug of war. Okay, so I'm being pretty transparent here tonight. Okay, the tug of war is this: do you want to create a story because you want to raise crowdfunding money, or do you want to and are you okay with a story that's actually not exactly completely true? Okay. For me, I'm not really comfortable with a story that's not quite exactly true. So the only story I can tell in the crowdfunding space is if somebody wants to make this a full-time job, then the right level of money would accomplish that, which pretty much amounts to $1,000 a month, actually, or so, somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000, because I have my commercial business and I'm doing okay. So I don't actually need funding to just be able to do this. It just would speed things up. It would speed things up because I would be able to give it more time. That story is true. Everything else would just be, it is true that you do need to sell the sizzle and not the steak kind of thing. And so, to a point, there are some things on the emotional side of the story that make sense for a crowdfunding kind of thing. Like the fact that the whole reason I could argue that the reason I want to tell stories in an animation framework, platform I should say maybe, is that watching shows like Avatar or Beast Wars, with my kids when they were small, was meaningful to me. Because it was. It was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Actually, we might as well use this iFix layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this one frame up to here. Okay, and what that does is now in this layer I can hit GE and I can just delete everything. It didn't look like anything happened, but that's because, see, that's what I just did. So that now this can still continue, right? Okay, so now if I take this back out, what I can do is I can get to this point where we have this little change here. So what I'll do is on this level or layer, I'm going to insert a blank keyframe so that when I turn this back on, the fix on the eyes that I just did prevails up until... Okay, I apologize, even though it's not my fault, is that Krita just failed to do what Krita is supposed to do. But that's totally normal for Krita. So I hit insert and nothing happened. So there, I finally got it to go. All right, so let's undo that. And so now what's going to happen is you're going to have this. And so now we have to look at how we're going to change the eyes up through there. So now what we could do, if I really am ready to commit to this fix, then I could bake this down. But my thinking right now is I don't want to bake it down. So in this, probably, yeah, I'd say it can go there. This can actually go to there. Okay, so now what are we going to do? What are we going to do? This is going to be, so I'm just going to actually use my brush. I want to be on this layer and just, if I jump back to the previous keyframe on this layer, we're jumping back to a place where it's covered up by this layer, and so therefore I can see what I had. So now we can actually start animating this a bit. I don't know. The crux of the story I'm telling you guys is that, you know what, I can guarantee you that in the web development space, business is good. I mean, there's, and there's, it's just not that big of an emergency, I guess. You know, the whole idea that the whole idea I wouldn't be able to create the show if I didn't get funding would be an absolute total lie. I just can't go there. It's just stupid. You know. And of course, I'm not saying that, of course someone would say, well, geez, Dave, you don't have to tell that story if you don't want to. Tell whatever story you want to tell. And that's true. That usually is the premise, for crowdfunding. And I guess the reason I have strong feelings about it is because I actually think most people, when they tell that story, they are in fact actually lying. They're just telling that story because that's the story that you need to tell to sort of tug on people's heartstrings and get them to give you money, so you can then go 6-7 years and deliver absolutely nothing. And it kind of, maybe it happens all the time in the crowdfunding space as it relates to like business opportunities, or who knows, films, whatever. I don't know. But I've been a little freaked out by how many of those I've seen in the animation space. Not a lot of them, but enough to make you go, what the heck is wrong with this picture? How come these guys aren't just, how much money do you really need to be able to make a little bit of progress every day? And you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's different for every person. Maybe I'm living in dreamland. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But that kind of explains why I've kind of talked about crowdfunding and then sort of balked at it every time. I haven't really gone full bore. So I certainly accept and appreciate any. Have you ever made a pitch Bible for the show at some point? I haven't, because I never really needed to, Sifter, because what I did was I had a script. I had the half-hour script that I had written 10 years ago. Now that script pretty much got scrapped and replaced with a different script because I wanted to develop the show, build it out into a 12-episode epic, So, but for me, when I went to my film distributor and just said, look, here's the concept for the show. I mean, this is basically what I'm thinking about doing. And it's not like there aren't more distributors or networks or whatever in the world. I'd like to pitch things to other entities, whether it's like, whatever, Amazon Prime or Netflix or, whatever. But right now, look, let's face it, my hands are full. You know what I mean? I don't have time for that, really. So I never created a pitch Bible because I didn't need one. Because the company that would be ultimately distributing the show knows me. They know me. They know what I'm capable of. They know how much money I've made them, which is over the last 10 years, probably, well, let me think. Wow. Let me think about this. At least $400,000. At least. Minimum $400,000 that I've made for them over the last 10 years. So now that on an annual basis, of course, that's not actually all that much. But for one movie, for revenues from a single movie, that's pretty good, I mean, my film was one of their top earners for quite a long time. It's probably been exceeded at this point. But I mean, that movie has 1.5 million. Well, it's close to, I believe, 2 million views just here on YouTube alone, let alone the other platforms where it's visible. The film I wrote and directed. And the sequel has about 500,000. 500,000 views on a 90-minute movie. You know, that's a lot of ad revenue for the distributor's YouTube channel. And I don't begrudge them their earnings, because I know for a fact that if I simply put the movie out, you know, on my own YouTube channel, because I don't really have the promotional, frankly, acumen or budget, they're earning, you know, what they're making off my movies, they're earning. So I don't begrudge them at all. But as far as Salt and Light goes, you know, it was just a conversation. It was just me saying, hey, I got an idea. This is kind of what I think I want to do. What do you think? And they're like, well, okay, based on what they're seeing from other properties that they deal with, that they know the actual earning power of, they're like, okay, well, you know, it seems to us that just shooting from the hip, that a show like this should be able to earn about $12,000 in the first year if they distributed it. So I say, well, okay, you know, that's not great money. You can't really live on $12,000 very well. You kind of survive, but then you aggregate that out and you look at, okay, well, what is that really? What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about $500 per finished minute, aren't we? If in fact the earning was, in fact, I remember when we had the conversation, I asked him, I said, well, are you talking about it's going to earn 12,000, or are you talking about my cut is going to be 12,000? He said, well, it seemed to me it'd be your cut, you know. So that means they're looking at so they're looking about $2,000 a month potential revenue on that property. Now, it is, of course, possible that he's wrong. It could be that he's not estimating well or whatever, but just, you know, this guy's always given me pretty good direction and advice based on his, you know, real candid information based on real world numbers for real world movies that they're distributing, right? I mean, he's a good guy, and hence that's why I've worked with him for 10 years. So I trust that his judgment's probably at least pretty close. So it's like, okay, if that's the earning power of the movie, well, I'm not going to drop everything and change my whole life, you know, to spend a year chasing after that revenue, because it's not enough to really, you know, you're not going to support yourself, right? But it will be, you know, it's still not bad. I mean, you know, and it could be a lot more too. You know, you just don't know. In the entertainment space, you have to take your chances and do your best and just see what happens, right? So, so Sifter, are you still there, Sifter? I haven't like tuned you out, have I? Yeah, I would say, so I'm looking at Maria's comment about completion. And so now that's interesting, Chris K. So you've experienced that too. That's interesting. I didn't know, really. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has really kind of gotten the feeling about it that I have. Interesting here. Interesting that Krita is not updating its buffers. So I'm actually, golly, if anybody ever wondered why I have a love-hate relationship with Krita. Krita, you know, let me try to summarize it in one sentence. Krita is really an amazingly capable program that is so unprofessional, because its features and what you can do with it are awesome, but in terms of the kind of stability that real professionals want and demand, it couldn't suck more. I mean, it's so bad. You know, now are there commercial softwares that are maybe just as bad? I don't know. I suppose so. But anyway, it is what it is. So, okay, so Sifter's still here. Okay, so my thinking for you, Sifter, though, in this regard is, what let me try to help you here a little bit as best I can. Okay, a few things you need to understand. Number one, I can tell you from experience in the film industry that when a film fails, it's usually because the film sucked. It's not because of anything else. Okay. Now there are limits on how much money you can earn from your craft uh, until you've got your craft to a certain level. Uh, you know what I mean? You build your community of people who are aware of your talent, and that opens up new doors of opportunity and sort of blah blah blah. All these things kind of work together. Okay. But you can be sure that if what you are creating is good, okay, there's a lot of ways it can go sideways and not be as good as it should be, maybe. But basically, if it's good, it will find its audience. I'm very, very confident telling you that. Okay, so now the question becomes, well, yeah, but how do I find the audience or whatever? And the answer is actually, these platforms, networks, and distributors are the easiest. They want content. They want content quite badly, actually. Okay, so if you're a talented person, you're gonna do fine. Okay, you're gonna do fine. So what do you do? Well, I don't think you necessarily have to think too much about a show Bible unless you really feel like your concept is at the point where you're ready to assemble that. If you are ready to assemble that, then it becomes a question of, well, okay, who am I gonna go pitch this to? And all the likely suspects are fair game. You want to be a little careful. Um, Let me show you I want to show you a video that you should watch. Hang on a second. I'm gonna pull up YouTube. Okay, so I'm looking at my subscriptions, and there's something I want you to watch that I think would be very informative for you, specifically in regard to where you're trying to go with creating a show and really doing the hard work of developing a show. Okay, so just give me a second here to look and find the channel that I'm looking for. So please be patient, friends, because the name of the channel is escaping me at the moment. What the heck is it called? And I know I'm looking straight at it and not seeing it, so forgive me, guys. On my other channel, I'm looking at the list of my subscriptions. I'm trying to find the one. It's because right now I want to remember it. So because I want to remember it, I'm having a brain fart and I can't remember it. Literally can't remember the name of the channel, and I'm pretty sure I was subscribed to it, but I'm not seeing it here. So let me think about this for a bit. I'm gonna turn off my microphone for a minute and let you guys chillax for about 2 minutes, and I want to think about this so I can find this channel that I want to point Sifter to. Okay, got it. All right, so the YouTube channel is called Film Courage. It's quite good. Um, and
I hate to say
this is a guy named Jeff Deverett.
this because it's going to disturb a lot of filmmakers who are watching this, but I'm going to wager to guess that most distributors don't even watch the movies that they distribute.
Okay, so Jeff's a neat guy. He's got a lot of years that he spent in the modest to low budget film distribution uh, arena, and this is very, very good, honest, seat of the pants information for anybody who's interested in getting into the entertainment industry to deal with the real world challenges and misconceptions that creators have about how it really works. So I just leave that to you to watch it on your own time. Jeff Deverett, Why Movie Distributor. And by the way, they've got quite a few videos with Jeff. They've interviewed him more than once. And like I said, he's a neat guy. He's a guy from Canada. Um, Jeff Jeff has the ability to he can get a meeting with Netflix, okay? And he's doing productions that are in the, gosh, if I remember correctly, he's in the like probably $500,000 and up kind of budget range. Which is way beyond what I ever um, dealt with, even though of course I made films for, you know, very, very cheap. But, in terms of what they were, people generally thought they cost a lot more than they did, right? So I would have been considered somebody who was making films that probably cost like $150,000. Um, yeah, I can share it on Discord. I closed the window, so there we go. Yeah, now I've got to re-find it again. Oh, jeez. That's just like so totally me. I find it. I go, I look, I look, I look. I find it. I close the window. And then after I close the window, hey, by the way, can you post it over there? And I'm like, now I'm having to jump all around trying to re-find it again. That's not a complaint against you, Sifter. Pretty reasonable that you would ask me that, but I have to go find it here on the other. Um, okay, so before this starts again, select, cut, Discord, boom, and I'm sharing it on the channel on Discord. Useful edu videos. Boom, there it is. Okay, so there it is. Useful edu videos. Put the link there for you. Okay, so the point of the story is that there's a little bit of a dance, okay, that's going on in the entertainment world, because I would say that in the distribution sector, everyone kind of hopes that they'll find the diamond in the rough. They're going to find the talent who can wind up being a really, really good value proposition for them. Okay? And the truth is that those people are vanishingly rare. They're extremely rare. They don't exist very much. They're very, very rare. So normally, if somebody is able to put a concept or I think I'm trying to think about how I want to say this. The truth is that very, very few people can deliver the goods. Okay, so I'm kind of proud of what I've done here, actually, on my YouTube channel. By there's a lot of things you could improve. It's not like amazing, but it's pretty good, I guess. So I've released these two shows, these little 4-minute webisodes. Well, that alone is many steps beyond. Many, not a few, not a couple. It's many steps beyond what most creators ever manage to do. Either because they can't or because they won't, right? So this is a point in my favor. Okay? Because a network is going to look at that and they're going to go, "Oh my god, this guy, he's maybe not the best artist on the block, or he's maybe not the whatever. You pick it, but the fact of the matter is that he actually gets gets something done, right? So most people, if they want to get something done, they're in a real pickle because they really only have two choices. They either have to buy the labor to be able to get it done, and this kind of gets back into the conversation I was having with Amar last week about the visionary and the grunt. The problem is that what if you had the budget, right, Sifter? What if I told you, okay, you know what? I'm so impressed with your talent that I'm going to give you $500,000. Okay? Well, what would you do with that money? How would you spend it? Right? Because the truth is that it's the person who can figure out how to spend it and spend it well that actually winds up creating a good product, because you can spend that $500,000 and create a really crappy product. For me, that's kind of stupid. I'd rather spend a tiny amount of money and have it be a modestly good product such that I'm building up both my skill level and my street cred to the point where I can justify selling the money people on the idea of maybe a bigger budget. So there's a lot that you really want to achieve in terms of your craft and your work habits that all need to be, you don't have to work yourself to death, but basically you really need to be able to demonstrate that you're the person that can either do the work or assemble the team and oversee it. But one way or another, you've got to deliver a product at the end of the day. And entertainment is nothing more than just another product. Just another product. That's all it is. Just another product, people. And again, that gets back to my cynicism about some of this crowdfund stuff is, to me, the idea that, come on, I've made 8 movies, all of which cost $8,000. And Healed by Grace made $1 million, and Healed by Grace 2 earns about $900 a month for me. Just for me. Just in royalties. Okay? And that's a movie that cost me $8,000 to make. Okay? So I come from the Roger Corman school of entertainment, which is you make it on the cheap and then and you do it profitably. Well, that's totally antithetical to the Hollywood mindset. And I understand it, because if you have the budgets to get the more of the big name actors, and you have the budgets to hire the good people, you are probably going to create a better product. Unless you really, really suck. So I'm not claiming by any means that my product is better. Not at all. That would be stupid. What I am claiming is that my product is profitable. Well, what do you think the distributor wants? He doesn't want the product. The distributor does not want the product that makes $1 million if it costs $1.5 million. That's the problem. So let's talk about how this actually happens in Hollywood, because it's the same problem you're going to run into in a little different way creating your anime thing. Okay, which is this. You have a choice. Okay, am I going to do this myself, or am I going to go get help? Okay, if I'm going to get help, you say, well, I need money. Okay, fine. You need money. Well, what are you going to actually do now? What is your task? We'll say, well, I got to either find the talented people, or I've got to get the money so I can hire them, or whatever. Okay? And then whatever. So if you were the distributor, or if you were Amazon Prime, or you were Netflix, and you looked at you say, well, would you give you a budget? And the answer in 99.9% of the cases of all people that want to create cool stuff, the answer for almost all of them will be no. If you looked in the mirror and you said, okay, would you give yourself any kind of budget to do this? Really? If it was your money that was on the line, would you do it? And the answer was almost always going to be no. No, of course you wouldn't. You're not stupid. And you'd be amazed how many people are in the filmmaking world that actually, in terms of how they think the industry works or how they hope it works, they're truly just in dreamland. They're absolutely in dreamland. So the way it really works in Hollywood is this. You've got a concept and you say you've got a script or you've got an anime thing and it's cool. Okay, so you go meet with somebody and they say, yeah, you know what, Sifter, hey man, this is cool. This is really cool. Great. Good luck. It's awesome. Knock 'em dead, buddy. Okay, so they're all positive and you go away thinking, wow, this is so great. They think I'm great. They think I'm, they really like it. But then you wait for that phone call where they're going to actually say, and by the way, we're not only do we think it's great, but we're going to give you money. But guess what? That call never comes. Why? Because just common sense. Would you give you the money? No, of course you wouldn't. You haven't proven anything yet. Now, Sifter, I point to you as an example of somebody who is, if you look at the work ethic behind what you've chosen to do in terms of you've given yourself a mission that I believe, if I understand what you're doing, is it's been about a 2 or 3 month mission so far, but it's a mission you gave yourself. Okay? You are, let me think about this. If there's 100 steps from just starting out 0 to at 100, you're a person that has enough experience and street cred and network that you basically will always have opportunities. Okay? Let's just say that's 100. So it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be the most rich or the most successful or anything like that, but at least you know that opportunities will never be lacking for you. Okay, that's 100. Everything in terms of the money you make and all that kind of stuff is above 100. All right, so 100 is just you've gotten to the point where you're going to be okay creatively. All right, Sifter, I point out here as an example of somebody that, based on what I see, is at least into the 30s and 40s in terms of what he's trying to do, where most people that are kind of talking about it or asking questions about it or kicking at the tires of animation or whatever it is, most people are kind of just languishing down in the 5 to 20 range probably. Okay, Sifter's in the 30, 40, 50 range already. Only because of his discipline. Because he's actually not only doing it, but he's applying some rigor to the process where he's looking at the data to figure out what he's doing right and what he's doing wrong, and is he doing this fast enough, and is he doing this well enough. That's the kind of discipline that the guy that's got the money is looking at that and going, now that's the guy I want to have working. That's the guy I want to take the risk on. Because he might not be the most talented artist, but he's okay. He's good. And he's willing to learn. Now, and by the way, since Amar's here, I'll say, Amar, I know you're doing kind of a community project kind of thing that you're organizing, and I can't comment for positive or negative about that because I haven't looked at what you're doing. But from what I've heard, the little rumblings I've heard, it sounds like what you're trying to do is very, very cool, and I wish you all the best with it. I think it's a good idea, and I like the fact that you're doing in the community what you said on the chat a couple of weeks ago was what you really wanted to do, which is kind of oversee the thing. And I think that's a good thing. I think you should do it. You should try it. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But getting back to Sifter, understand that what people are looking for is basically one modest success, I would say. One modest success, meaning you actually finish something. Okay? That's at least okay, pretty good. If in fact, I can actually summarize this whole conversation this way. If a person in the animation space creates something that's only 1 minute long or something, and it's really, really, really good, or if they create something that's 5 minutes long and it's kind of sort of pretty good, it's like, better than average, it's a credible production. And certainly if they kind of do what I'm trying to do, where you create something that's 24 minutes long and it's like, it's okay. right? If you do any of those three things, opportunities are going to start to appear for you. Because the very fact that you've completed either something very short that's great, something modestly short that's pretty good, or something, actually normal television length that's okay. If you do any of those three things, you have risen. You've left the competition in the dust. All the people that are just talking about it are way back in the pack. They're not even close to you. You've surpassed them, and they're not going to catch up. That's my opinion. And believe me, I know filmmakers that have done, have been at it for a long time, but they just don't develop the craft to the point where they can complete something that is even reasonable to compete, kind of sort of well. You know what I mean? It's kind of sad, actually. And the reason I say that so emphatically is that those people tend to be the same people that you'll see, in a forum or a discussion or sometimes an interview where they'll talk about, yeah, we've been having conversations with XYZ company, and yeah, we're talking about a co-production deal, and oh yeah, we're talking about $500,000 budgets, and we're talking about this, and we're talking about that, and you know what? 6 years later, they're still talking. They're just talking. It's all talk. It's all bullshit. Because what they're doing is they're talking in the language of people who actually don't know what they're even talking about. That's what they do. I've done it before, Dave, on the OT server in May of 2020. It's 1 minute animation clip. Okay, cool. Good. Great. Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I think actually, I don't know. I don't really remember that. I probably should have. I should have been aware of it, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna save this. I like what I've got here on Asher's Eyes. I'm not making very fast progress, but there's basically two things that I want. The people that are looking at there's a difference between people that are here because they're interested in the craft of maybe animation, or God forbid, for some stupid reason they like hearing me talk. I don't really get that either, but there's a difference between those people and people like Sifter, who have a real vision for creating something that is meaningful, that contributes, that they really want to develop their voice in the animation or entertainment space. Okay, so I'm talking to that person tonight. I'm talking to guys like Sifter and Amar, who are really wanting to just, in other words, probably these guys, I would guess, their dream would be to just basically not have to worry about money. Don't necessarily need to be rich, okay? I mean, I'm not rich. I can pay my bills. I'm okay. I'm debt free, actually, which is a very good thing. But basically, I'm just a normal guy, who loves the fact that I have the freedom to pursue interesting things. That's me. Nothing special, and I'm fine with that. So I think for a lot of creative people, just to be able to know that they're okay financially, so that they can really give their very best to whatever this vision is that they have, that's all they want. You know what I mean? And so I guess my message is, please know that to get there really doesn't take that much. If you waffle around with figuring out how you're going to do it for too long, all you do is you wind up just wasting a lot of years, really. So know that, by gum, you can do this. So it's better to do something short and good. And if you do something short and at the end of the day it's not quite good enough, then make it better. Revise it. Do whatever you have to do to get it so that that 1 minute competes favorably with what's on television, let's say, or in the movies, but probably on television. And then you've passed the first demarcation line. Well, there's a fairly large number of people who can accomplish that. But there's a smaller number of people that can take that and then scale it out to maybe 5 minutes. Remember, that's how The Simpsons started, significantly. The way The Simpsons started was it was a little 5-minute vignette thing on the Tracy Ullman show back in the 80s. That's how The Simpsons got going. It was a short thing. So, I mean, that's the point. The point is you can do this and you'll get there. If you don't give up, you will get there. And for crying out loud, enjoy the ride. Because if you don't enjoy the actual labor of it, then you'll never sustain the effort anyway. You'll quit, because you really don't. Because this isn't actually what you really want to do. Now, that's an understandable happenstance. And sometimes you actually do have to go pretty far with something to discover that it's actually not what you want to do. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody has that in life. It's a normal part of life. We are all in an ongoing quest to just figure out what our contribution even is. And it evolves. It changes over time. Rick and Morty was started on YouTube. Yeah, I think maybe I knew that, but I don't think I knew that. Radis is on our team, and his addition to that video was really clean for short animation. Animate your avatar. It's on your channel. Okay, I'm going to look this up right now. I'm looking this up right now. All right. Because I just do not remember this. Art with AMRB. I'm not going to play the audio. In fact, I'm going to turn the external audio off for the moment. And then you're doing, this was called Animate Your Avatar. So I'm going to search your channel because I am curious about this. I do remember something about that. Okay, OpenTunes collaboration, 1 minute long. Got it. Okay, so this is what Amar's talking about, apparently. So, might as well plug this here. Okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Now the rat thing looks like it, and the cat too. The cat kind of competes favorably with your Futurama kind of thing, and the rat competes favorably with a lot of your, a lot of the children's programming, a lot of the little kids programming, kind of stuff you see on PBS Kids or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool So how long did that take to create, Amar? That's Radis's contribution? Right, okay, free music, right on. Did Radis create the rat? This stuff, I'm kind of at risk here because I'm guessing maybe this part is what you did. The main problem with this is that the application for this type of animation, this is kind of like what you saw in some stuff, back in the, if you think about the sort of specialty stuff that showed up on either Sesame Street or what the heck was it called? Not so much the like Schoolhouse Rock type stuff, but I can remember a lot of stuff back in the 70s and maybe 80s that was kind of this sort of real specialty animation, right? This looks more like something that's more broadly applicable to what you'd expect to see on TV. The cat too, maybe to a lesser extent, but still, at least from what I've seen. I can't say I've actually. I don't like kill myself watching everything that's on TV as far as cartoons go. So what is this Darren's contribution here? Is this guy what Darren did or something? I'm guessing it has a T on it, and it kind of looks like him, so I'm guessing that's that's fun stuff. Animated in Open Tunes. Took about 3 months. Okay, yeah, actual work time. Right, so that's Darren. That is like psychedelic, man. Why does it go by so fast? I'm actually like the superheroes. I'm wishing they would go by a little slower, you know? Gone. You should have ran that at about half the speed, dude. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, but it just like disappears off the screen too quick. I would re-edit that. I honestly, Amar, I would probably re-edit that thing and make this stuff a little bit slower. Because all I really need to see here, frankly, is just some pauses. Like this, like boom, blump, brum, brum. You know, just some pauses so that because it never gives your brain a chance to digest the pose, right? They all disappear before you can digest what you just saw. So I think what you're doing here is really hard to do, you know, and you're not really featuring it as well as you could because it all goes by too quick. Whereas what Darren did is obviously really simple, but it's kind of cheeseball, so it's fun. You know, it's got a fun factor to it. It's like it's so bad it's good kind of thing, right? The anatomy and stuff. But your stuff goes by way too fast. It's like, whoa, what just happened? Okay, so that's my only criticism. My criticism is you didn't give your own stuff enough time to really sink in for the audience, unfortunately. Oh, I see. So you had to chop it. Okay, I didn't realize that. That's funny. Set time frame to do the animation, right on. And people did say make it slow. Okay, so I'm not the only one. Okay, cool. So I'm not an idiot. I'm only kind of an idiot. All right, I think I'm gonna actually sign off here pretty quick because I've spent an hour and a half and I basically haven't got anything done on Asher. Fortunately, I got quite a bit done on Tobias yesterday. So, okay, gotcha. They took liberty and their stuff's long. Got it, right? Well, that makes sense. I mean, you know, whatever. It's like a team thing or whatever. So, anyway, the message today is, if I had to tell everybody, do one of three things. Is like I said about length. Either create something that's 1 minute. If it's 10 seconds, it's not enough. Like there's too many talented animators out there on YouTube and in other places that really are good animators. And so they create these little short walk cycles or whatever. The problem is that that's not entertainment. That shows you can animate for sure, but it doesn't tell you can tell a story, for one thing. Definitely does not tell you can tell a story. And you think about it, what does the real world buy? Think about this for a minute. What does the real world buy? If you want to get the most money for the least, if you want to get the most money per minute, okay, until you are in an elite class in the entertainment industry where there's people who trust you as a creator so much that they're willing to throw maybe hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars at you, which, by the way, most of it you're going to spend, okay? Until you're at that level, and you're not going to be at that level for a long time, what is the most lucrative thing you can do? Commercials. So if you create something that's going to be just amazing, Sifter or Amar or whatever, and it can be a trailer, it can be a pitch for something else for sure, but it needs to be at least 30 seconds of amazing. A minute would be better, I suppose, but at least 30 seconds of amazing. Or 5 minutes of pretty good, or, you know, even longer of, wow, it's okay. It's viable as a product, even though it's not necessarily the best thing we've ever seen before, right? I think if a person does any of those three things, opportunities are going to appear for them because you've proven you can do the work and you can finish something and you become viable as a creative partner to either other creative partners or to the money people or to the distribution people or the network people or the platform people. To those people, they're going to look at what you're going and go, wow, this person can actually get something done. And so then what you're going to find is you're going to see a gradual meeting in the middle between the amount of risk that people are willing to take, and what might be expected of you in terms of what you try to produce. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of work any way you slice it. So you better love what you're doing. You really better be on board with what you're trying to do. So I'm going to look at Amar's last comments, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up, because I don't think for animators this has been that useful. I hope it's been useful from the standpoint of looking at the market or the industry, because that is something I know a little bit about. Not a ton, I'm not like mega accomplished or anything, but within the limited scope of basically faith-based films, I've had some pretty good success and experience dealing with the distribution community and whatnot. How do you get your thing out there? Number one, it has to not suck. That's really it. If it doesn't suck, then at least they're going to talk to you. Now, you're not going to get a meeting with Netflix. You're not. Trust me, you're not going to get a meeting with Netflix. Jeff Deverett actually is only barely able to get meetings with Netflix. Right? So, it'll be interesting to see what happens with 10 people versus with 5 people. I know this collaboration, we can do 30 seconds and a 15 seconds intro and outro every month. Yeah, that'd be cool. Create a good community to bring an eye on what we and others do. Yeah, and I would say that then if you're going to do that, if this would be my advice, what you have in the thing you did last year is, 2020, is essentially a smattering of stuff, okay? Right? So there's no story to it, okay? So if I was going to give you one piece of advice, it would be really give attention to the writing side of it. Really give attention to what it is you're creating so that it's a single cohesive thing that tells some kind of little story, because that's what the market buys. The only thing the market buys, okay? Let me say that again. The only thing the market buys is stories. And the exception, kind of, but it's still really storytelling, of course, would be commercials where you're creating animation and whatnot. Right, I understand it wasn't meant to have a story. So it's not a criticism. But I'm saying on this thing you're doing now, if you really want it to be a stepping stone to something bigger in terms of opportunity, then by all means, please start with a story, even if it's just a joke, right? If it's a joke where you can unfold it for 30 seconds, and especially if you can make people laugh at the end. So this is not showcasing animation. Animation is just the means to the end. It's just the mechanism you're using to tell the story, but the important thing is the story. If you can do that, then it will number one, it'll really entertain people. Okay? Just seeing cool animations in and of itself is only marginally entertaining, actually. So it's really something that's going to be embraced and celebrated by the animation community, but it will never be embraced and celebrated by a much larger community. A little bit larger, but not much. Because people just aren't interested in that, typically. Right? People are interested in stories. And then, of course, as I say, it turns out that the mechanism used to tell the story actually doesn't matter that much. It can be live action. It can be a book. It can be a comic book. It can be obviously it can be a cartoon. But sort of the rule is, if it entertains you, it works and it can be successful. And if it doesn't entertain you, it's basically worthless. Really. It's pretty binary. So anyway, so Maria is a scriptwriter. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, okay, that's what you meant by writing it to me. Okay, so you're writing it. Awesome. Other people on the team that can help there as well. But she has this, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she has this. No, that's great. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad you're doing that, Maria. Um, so cool beans. The format we'll be doing will fit in with YouTube Shorts. Right, exactly. Yep, TikTok. Yep, got to be under a minute. And then that maybe can, um, we'll see where it goes from there, right? Could be anything. I do believe that it is possible for a small team like what you're putting together to produce a credible, ongoing, full-blown like television show. I do believe it's possible. I don't know that anyone has ever done it. There's probably been glimpses of it in the live action drama or comedy space, but I do believe it's possible. And maybe you'll figure it out. Maybe you'll figure it out. But we'll see. So I think with that, I am going to wrap. And as you guys know, thanks for putting up with me tonight, by the way. There will be more later.